Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Honor the Land. I am Max Loeb, he is Chef Zay, and this is Big Play Sports Network coming to you after the Browns schedule release, rookie minicamp, all the JOK news, some other Cleveland sports news. We have so much to talk about today. Zay, how are you doing?
I can feel it coming. I'm ready. I'm so ready for football season. I think the schedule release, the draft being by, we talked about this previous shows where we're like, once the draft is over, we'll get that wind of hype, and then there'll obviously be the dog days of summer. Yeah. But I couldn't be more juiced just because the expectation, everything surrounding it, and just seeing the clips, man. Yeah. Strolling through Twitter every day and just another new clip. And obviously we're going to overhype every throw that Shedeur and Dylan Gabriel make. But, that's what we do as Browns fans in this type of situation. So how you feeling?
I'm good. It was a good week, a little bit of an elongated week between shows. We wanted to wait for the schedule to release to come back and talk. And it released, depending on when you're saying this, but Wednesday night. The Browns did it, a little AI 3D animated thing with Brownie the Elf, but also had their rookies react to it. The schedule release itself, we could talk about that another time, but the schedule itself, what are your initial thoughts? Because I know I have two things that are glaring at me as the orange and brown and white graphic is next to me. What are your initial thoughts with the schedule?
First thing I thought when I saw it was the NFL scripters don't like us because that first 8-game stretch is unreal. You talk about a gauntlet right out the gate. Then my second thing was I was looking for the Tennessee game, and how ironic. Week 14, Titans, Browns, Cam Ward will definitely probably be playing by that time. And could we see it? I don't know. I've never felt like, we talked about this a little bit off air, I've never felt like we're living more than in a script than I do right now. Yeah. In the sports world, especially with the NBA draft lottery, I agree with you. It feels like we are living in a scripted world. I think you bring up a really good point about that Week 14 matchup because there's a super logical progression with the Browns schedule that makes you think at their bye week in Week 9, they could be looking at a quarterback change. They are going to play 5 playoff teams in the first 6 games, and the only team that is not a playoff team in those first 6 games is the Cincinnati Bengals, who just missed the playoffs. Then they get Miami at home, which, for all intents and purposes, I think most people outside of the Miami Dolphins and the Dolphins fans would have rather played in Cleveland in October compared to December like they did last year. And then you're on the road at New England. And New England, to me, is a borderline playoff team with the schedule that they have. They're a close to double-digit win team, and they've improved a lot over the offseason. So not only that, they're Vrabel as well. Return of Vrabel. So a lot of storylines in that.
Vrabel revenge game. But yeah, you could be sitting at the bye week. If we're being real, you could have 1 to 3 wins at that point. That's the reality of it. That's how hard the schedule is. And that is not a knock on what the Browns have or will do, but the reality is the schedule is that hard that it wouldn't shock a lot of people if you're sitting there. If you're sitting at 2-6 come really Week 10 after the bye week, not all hope is lost, but you think it's a logical point to make a quarterback change, regardless of which rookie it is, regardless of which direction you want to go. If you wanted to make a quarterback change, you would have a 2-week buffer to do it with in the middle of the season. That, to me, is a glaring thing with the Browns schedule.
It's almost as if it's like they want it to be one direction or other. I think, like you said, if it's 2-6, it's a no-brainer. You're going to the rookies. You want to see what you have. You could equally split it up 4 games, 5 games, however you want to do it. But if you're sitting there at 4-4, I think the decision gets a little bit tougher. You're still going to be in the thick of things. You're still going to have divisional opponents that you have to play, seeing as though they start out with 2 and end with 2. So you have that in the back of your mind. I don't want to say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'm a big theory guy. And it's setting up for the situation where it's like maybe the Browns could be 4-4. Maybe those next 2 weeks it was on the water of Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco looking like, okay, I could get more, but they're not sinking us. We're winning games, but we're losing. And then you're just kind of at that thing where it's like, we need that jolt. We need something new, something fresh, almost like the Tyrod Taylor, Baker Mayfield scenario. And then it's setting up for Shedeur to maybe keep that hope alive, especially with the Week 14 matchup. It's always that, well, they're not mathematically out and Shedeur could come in, and just that hype. So it sets up perfectly for a cinema story, whether it be Week 8, whether it be Week 12, more importantly, Week 14, I think is the big one.
Here's my thing. I am not convinced it is Shedeur if it's a rookie. I think we can look at what the Browns did with Dillon Gabriel, where they picked Dillon Gabriel, and say they probably feel more confident in him. Not even probably, they do feel more confident in him. Now, we talked about this. That can change throughout OTAs, training camp, preseason, practices. That can change. But right now, if you're going to have to pick between one of the rookies, and Stefanski was right or wrong, asked this question, how do you pick Dillon Gabriel over Shedeur Sanders? He didn't really give a straight answer, but like you picked Dillon Gabriel before him. That's the answer right now, but that can't change. The other thing I want to talk about is the draw with London. And I am kind of upset about it, to be honest with you, because I look at the Browns schedule, and obviously, you can have your option with the bye week if you're playing overseas, and if the Browns don't want the bye week after they play in London, that's their choice. But I look at the Minnesota Vikings, who are in Ireland the week before that, already accustomed to the time zone, playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. That, for all intents and purposes, to me and a lot of other people, is an advantage when you go play in London the next week. You're already accustomed to it. Facilities, regardless, we'll hear Shelby Harris talk about that a little bit. That maybe is a different advantage, but jet lag, adjusting to the time zone matters a lot. The Vikings, in my opinion, will have a leg up going into that Browns game, and the Browns travel to London and then come back, not only play the Steelers on the road, but they get the Steelers off of their bye week.
Which is never good.
You talk about short end of the stick on a schedule. I don't even know if they got the end of the stick. I don't think they got a part of the stick. That is the worst possible draw it could have been for those 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, it's the Browns, right? They're gonna find a way to screw us somehow, and obviously, it's not even technically into that OT. It's just the beginning of the season. We're already seeing how the Browns are gonna be treated throughout the league. So just buckle up and be ready for another typical Cleveland Brown season.
Yeah, I will say I do think it could be worse. I think they could be going to Baltimore instead of going to Pittsburgh. That's the only way it could be worse, but it's still pretty bad. No, I'm with you though.
It could be worse. No, if Mason Rudolph has these guys with a 500 record, or with winning football, and it's like, oh my gosh, we got to go. We're coming back home, and then if we get beat by Mason Rudolph, it can be pretty bad.
Or Aaron Rodgers.
Or Aaron Rodgers. We'll save that for another day, but man, I'm not looking forward to that.
Let's talk now. I want to talk about this because the NFL has set it up for the Steelers to get Aaron Rodgers. You're telling me a week 1 potential revenge game against the New York Jets, right?
Yeah.
That's week 1. A primetime game against the Green Bay Packers, really? A primetime game against the Green Bay Packers. Setting it up for Aaron Rodgers to come back. Obviously, they played the NFC North this year, so that's set up in its own world. But the team the Vikings play overseas is the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's an NFC North team that really wanted Aaron Rodgers. So everything to me is set up for Rodgers to go to the Steelers. I don't know. I honestly don't know what it's a matter of financially, emotionally, whatever. Aaron Rodgers has said he's working through things off the field, which is people we kind of have to respect, right? Regardless if he can pass by that or not in time, if he can go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, he's going to. And it is set up perfectly for him to do that.
I just think back to the clip when Jerry Jeudy was asked the question about, well, if Aaron Rodgers is in the Pittsburgh Steelers, would you be upset? And he sat there out of his own mouth and said, yeah. I feel exactly like that. Yeah. Everybody's writing off. When are we going to learn? Like, sometimes I get it. I get you want to write people off. But every time everyone as a whole collectively writes someone off who still has stuff in the tank, who has been elite and won MVPs or whatever the case may be, they always come out and prove people wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what better organization, and I hate that I have to say that but they've been a model organization in terms of what you want to do, besides losing in the playoffs every first round. We got more wins than them, subtle shot, but it's just like, if anybody's going to get that last ounce of juice out of Aaron Rodgers, you think about the coach that Mike Tomlin is. If anybody can manage an ego like Aaron Rodgers, you gotta think it's Mike Tomlin, right? So
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just not. I'm not thrilled to see Aaron Rodgers. I know a lot. I want to see Aaron Rodgers. Well, you sound a little crazy. I'm just saying.
You want to see Aaron Rodgers or Mason Rudolph? Come on,
yeah.
Be real here. You watch him play at the second half of last year when the injuries started to be less of a factor. He looked like his old self. He's not his old self, but he looked like his old self. Now it is interesting. We didn't talk about this either because it happened before this show or between our shows, George Pickens now is a Pittsburgh, or not a Pittsburgh Steeler. George Pickens now is a Dallas Cowboy. Does that play in? I'm not convinced. I think this is a financial thing for the Steelers. I think the Cowboys won the trade, but I think this is a financial thing for the Steelers. What did you think about George Pickens' trade?
They're slowly itching towards that word that the Browns have been living in since '99.
Yeah.
And that's rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Steelers fans are dreading it. I don't necessarily know if they're dreading it. I actually follow a couple of Steelers fans or have a lot of Steelers fans around, and they're kind of just waiting for this Tomlin era to go away, essentially. Yeah. They're tired of the just hovering around and always just getting over just to get bounced in the first round. Like, they're tired of it, and it seems as if they're just, treading and their tires are spinning, and what direction is it going to go? It just, I mean, we know better than any fan base what a rebuild is going to look like and what's starting to look like.
Still is going.
They're in a quarterback conundrum just like us. Yeah. People want to think it's all, no, they've gone through just as many quarterbacks as the Cleveland Browns.
Absolutely.
They're getting rid of some of their talent, and they're bringing in some, but it just has that feel that it's like, it's only a matter of time before we finally see it, if whether it be 1 season, 2 seasons, where the Steelers aren't going to be the model that they've been for the past 20 years.
I completely agree. And the Chargers, I don't know if you saw their schedule release, made it very clear there's a two-way fork in the road where it's a rebuild or it's 9-8 again. Before we move on to Never Sunny in Berea, we do have to kind of address the big elephant in the room here, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, right? He is not playing in 2025. Don't know the future. He said himself he doesn't know the future. Obviously, the Browns are fully backing this decision. But when you go and read JOK's statement, not necessarily the Brown statement or Andrew Berry's statement, if you take out the part where he explicitly mentions 2025, you think he's retiring. We can't say that. We don't know if that's the case, but it does not look good there.
Only thing that I'll say about that, and you obviously bring up a good point and just trying to dissect it, what I think is it's just – JOK has always been that one to take extra precaution with things, and we've seen it with the concussion helmets last year. I wonder, like, I'm hoping that this is just one of those things where it's like, I'm going to take this year 100% just to make sure everything, listen to the doctors, go through all the proper rehabs, and then come next year, reevaluate it. I still think in the back of his mind he can make it or make the return. I don't think he's going to force it. If the doctors tell him it's probably not a good idea, I think he'll listen to the doctors and go on about his way. But I'm holding on to that good old Cleveland hope that, we can see Carson Swessinger and JOK play side by side next to each other.
Yeah, and we talk about that in Never Sunny in Berea because Carson Swessinger obviously has big shoes to fill with JOK out, but man, if they could play next to each other, oh my God. That defense, the defensive line that you already have, a secondary with a lot of different playmakers, and those two guys really roaming the middle with a spearhead and maybe Devin Bush or another guy who can come in your heavier packages, and then when you get into your nickel world, you got Greg Newsome playing on the inside. He's very comfortable there. They can figure out the safety position. Justin Simmons, if you're still watching, my offer still stands. We could see something pretty special out of that Browns defense next year, though, so we're going to be without JOK in 2025. We'll talk a little bit about that as well as the overall quarterback room for the Cleveland Browns and Never Sunny in Berea next on Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. Welcome back into Honor the Land. I am Max Loeb. He is Jeff Say on Big Play Sports Network, and this is Never Sunny in Berea, our patented segment where we attribute weather reports to 3 people in the Cleveland Browns building. We're going to couple a few people into one group, but we got 2 groups of people that we want to talk about and attribute weather reports to. And we're going to start with the topic of conversation, Zay. The quarterback room all throughout rookie mini camp. Obviously, the rookies and the vets had a little bit of overlap. There's so much going on with that room right now. It's insane.
It's the most interesting quarterback room I think I can remember ever. Yeah. Besides, obviously, the Baker Mayfield thing. But we were just waiting for him to kind of take over.
Yeah, this is way
legit.
More. Yeah.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I've got that Cleveland Browns hope that I have every single year. It's back now. All it took was drafting Shador and Dylan Gabriel and Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett to do it, but we're here now, so that's how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I think there's a world where we potentially see a rookie next year, maybe both, maybe probably earlier than we think as well. But that room it's so odd right now because there's 4, well, technically 5, but 4 that are going to be able to play at least early next year. And you have to configure a starting room, 53-man roster room of 3. and you find it really hard to believe that one of the rookies will not be there, right? You think both rookies will be on the roster, so it's Kenny Pickett or Joe Flacco. Watching rookie minicamp, hearing what everybody had to say, it seemed like the rookies played well. Obviously, it's rookies against rookies, no pads, shorts on. Like, you got to take a deep breath with this stuff. But what weather report are you attributing to this quarterback room right now?
I think it's that, like, it's nice out, but it's like an eerie nighttime. Like, it's like, I feel like there's a lot of, like, almost, I don't want to say divide and conquer in it, but I can't imagine how you feel as a player in this locker room where you have 4 different quarterbacks and all 4 of them have something different to offer. And 2 of them are back just off of one of them being the draft pick that fell, and then another one where he was already here and proved to you what he could do. And there's players on this locker room who got to reap the benefits of it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that, the calm before the storm, in a sense, because there's going to be a storm with this quarterback room the second training camp hits. So I'm going to go the calm before the storm, however you want to. That breeze, it's nice out, and then that big breeze just comes swarming in before something happens.
What do you think that storm could be? Do you think it's a trade, somebody getting cut? Well, I don't know what the storm would be. I would venture to guess, like I just said a minute ago, that Shedeur and Dillon Gabriel are both on the roster. But what do you think the storm is going to be?
Well, I was on record, a few shows ago where I talked about Kenny Pickett being the guy they should ultimately trade, especially when there's going to be quarterback Saints. We talked about it right off the show, that they need a quarterback too. So I just think it's going to be more so of Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski are going to have their hands tied when they're sitting here with these quarterbacks. And let's just play the hypothetical. We know the Browns do decent in preseason. Besides last year was the first year preseason wasn't anything like previous years. But we have been known to be, Super Bowl preseason champions because of how well we play. It's going to feel like one of those things where Joe Flacco's going to have that edge just off of seniority, just off of being here, done that. But you're going to see Dillon Gabriel make some throws. You're going to see Shedeur Sanders make some throws. You're going to see how both of them lead and how the teammates gravitate to whatever player they like or feel more in. I just think that storm is just going to be this group likes this guy, this group likes this guy, this group likes this guy, and it's going to be a battle between everyone of who should start. Fans talking, of course.
Fans talking, but honestly in the building too, because preseason is going to be scrutinized very, very heavily, especially because you have 2 rookies. Every single rep that each of those guys takes in the preseason, especially compared to the veterans who you expect to step in week 1, probably whoever's better training camp preseason between Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco, every single rep they take in the preseason, which you assume pretty much everybody. I'm not 100% convinced Joe Flacco would take a lot, if any, preseason reps, but every single rep is going to be scrutinized because you need to find answers fast. And it's not like you need to rush a rookie quarterback in week 1. We'll talk about that plenty. It's more the fact that you have 4 quarterbacks, and there are other teams, like you said, the New Orleans Saints we talked about, and potentially other teams, which I feel like deja vu talking about this, could use a quarterback if somebody goes down. We said the exact same thing last offseason with DTR, Tyler Huntley, even Jameis Winston. There are teams that could need a backup quarterback. Over half the teams last year in the NFL used their backup quarterback in a meaningful game. So I'm with you. There's some type of storm coming. I'm going to go with the anti-seasonal weather, that last snow for Guardians opening day, right? That last snow that came before the weather finally got nice. There's always that day in November before the winter comes where it's like 75 degrees and you're like, I thought it was about to be winter. It's the anti-seasonal weather where you are expecting or almost knowing what's coming next because the weather does eventually come, but you got to get over this weird little hump. And I think the weird little hump with the Browns right now is the veteran quarterbacks. I think we're all waiting for Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders to step in and play. When they do it, we think it's going to be this year, especially looking at the schedule. That remains to be seen. But when you look at these 2 guys and what the Browns want to do at the quarterback position, we are all waiting for them to make that move. It's not like Joe Flacco is going to be here for 4 more years. Same with Kenny Pickett. It's very clear, and if it wasn't made clear by them drafting 2 quarterbacks, I don't know how much clearer it could get, that they want to infuse youth at the position. It's just a matter of when. You got to get over that weird hump, that 80-degree day in the middle of November that we always get.
I think the schedule is a big indication of how the season is going to plan out. It's almost set up for you to see what the quarterbacks and essentially where they're going to play. We go back to the video that we made on socials on Out on the Land. Make sure you guys go check it out, where we predicted how many games each quarterback would play. You had Kenny Pickett at 8 or 4?
I had Flacco and Pickett together at 8.
Okay. So you look at that first 8 weeks, and 5 of those teams went to the playoffs. Joe Burrow, the offense, got better, I guess. They pay their receivers.
That's a playoff caliber team, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just look at that, and it's like, this is why I'm full belief that Joe Flacco is ultimately going to get the starting position or the starting spot for week 1, because you need to at least see how you compete these first few weeks.
Yeah.
And then the person that gives you the best opportunity to do that is Joe Flacco. Then after that, I think it comes into, do you really want to go to Kenny Pickett if he's on the roster? Or do you want to see what you got with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders? It seems as if Dylan Gabriel will get the nod just off the simple fact that if it started today, he was our 3rd-round pick. He'll probably get the start before Shedeur. Then you look at that second half of the schedule. Titans are there. No primetime games. What's going to make the most money for the Browns in this season?
Probably Shedeur Sanders.
Shedeur versus Cam is going to be must-watch TV. Ratings will never be higher. So I definitely think the schedule plays into what we'll see in this quarterback competition.
Absolutely, and the rookies are going to be at the forefront, not only on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball, which brings me to our second and final player in Never Sunny in Berea, and that's Carson Swessinger, who almost by default was thrusted into a starting role, being picked with the first pick in the second round or on day 2. But now even more so into a prominent difference-maker role with the Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah news that he's at least not playing next season. So Carson Swessinger, immediate starter, now has an even bigger role to play. What weather report are you giving Carson Swessinger right now? Because it's a little scary out there.
If I'm Carson, it's sunny. It's beautiful. It's hair in the wind. Like, you just get, not only did you get picked where people probably didn't have you getting picked, so money's going to be a little bit better. That always helps.
Yep.
But you know what you've gone through in terms. It's almost like Baker Mayfield on defense. The storyline of him having to walk on everywhere, being doubted, essentially getting the opportunities, going high in a draft situation, and you're going to come into this defense that has been that has had an identity lack in terms of who's in the middle of the defense that can orchestrate this. And I think this is a perfect guy. You hear all of the things about how smart he is, how he's a great tackler, A, B, and C, mixed with the fact that I just think that he's going. I'm getting off track. I think he's going to be one of those players we look at 4 years like, that's my favorite player.
Oh, okay.
I have this weird feeling because we haven't had a guy in the middle of the defense that can actually, coach the defense on that side. So I think it's like I said, hair in the wind, sunny, never better for him.
He would have been, and still could be, the perfect compliment to JOK. The perfect compliment. I don't want to get too far down the hypothetical role and make us upset if we can't see JOK again. But regardless, I'm with you. I think it can and probably will get to that point where it's sunny, hair's in the wind, but it's a little bit like it was this morning. Like, you know how nice it is. It's like 70-ish degrees, but the clouds are covering up the sun. And the reality is the clouds in this case are the huge shoes that need to be filled in that linebacker room.
Yep.
And I don't know if Carson Swessinger can even do it by himself, just off the fact that he is not that set the violent edge on the backside Will Backer. No, he's the guy in the middle. He's the green dot guy. At least that's what we think as of now. We don't know yet. But he's that guy who's going to, like you said, lead the defense, coach up the defense, be the guy in the middle. Can he step in and be the shoot the gap TFL guy that JOK was? We've seen it on film, but is that going to be his role? We don't know. That cloud almost covering up the sun is uncertainty, because we saw what we had with JOK. He was an extreme difference maker. Even going back to last season, I looked at the running backs or rushing performances prior to the JOK injury against guys like Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts. You also had Chase Brown, Rico Dowdle, even Derrick Henry in that game. All of those guys did not crack 73 yards. None of them cracked 73 yards. The biggest rushing performance against the Browns in JOK's time was Jaden Daniels against the Commanders. And if you guys remember, there were 2 extremely long scrambles that he broke the pocket on. It wasn't like he was carrying the ball 15 times, right? They stopped the run, and then after the JOK injury, granted there were other things that played in there, you had other guys like Chase Brown again, who rushed for 90 yards. You had plenty of other guys later on in the season who were ripping this defense apart when they weren't before, or they shouldn't have. So if Carson Swessinger can step in and be that immediate difference maker, set edges, shoot gaps, get the important TFLs that you need, then he absolutely will be, wind in the hair. It'll be sunny. It'll be beautiful. But the cloud of uncertainty, I'm not 100% sure right now.
Well, they definitely set him up to succeed in terms of making his job a lot easier. They did go out and get the guy from Tampa who has the speed to be that outside guy. You bring in Mason Graham and another defensive tackle from the Bucks who are obviously Graham is more of a pass rusher defensive tackle, but can still clog up the middle along with the guy that they just signed. So obviously you still got your corners D back there. I think his job is just set up to just go be you. You don't have to do anything over the top. Obviously, you want to look and you want to try to compare the JOK and the crowd, but those are two different. They're two different positions, two different play styles, and they offer two different things. Like you said, I think the biggest thing is, man, imagine them both together. So hopefully we can get JOK back next year because these two together could be nightmares.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head with everybody else making the job easier too. When you have a defensive line like that, it is going to be extremely beneficial to whoever is back there. We saw at times Jordan Hicks was very good last year, obviously helped JOK. Even Devin Bush
I love me some Jordan
at
Hicks.
times last year was very good. But those guys along the defensive line, obviously Myles Garrett, but you got Owusu-Koramoah, you got Mason Graham, Alex Wright, all of those guys that are going to come in and immediately help. One other guy, though, Shelby Harris. We have Shelby Harris coming on next for an interview talking about his experience on the Browns so far, that 2023 year, the offseason, and everything in between. Up next on Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into Honor the Land, presented by Big Play Sports Network. I am Max Loeb, he is Chef Zay, and we are joined by a very special guest, Browns defensive lineman Shelby Harris. Shelby, we appreciate you hopping on. We appreciate you talking with us, and there may be no better day to do it than today, the day after the schedule release. How are you doing? It looks absolutely beautiful where you're at right now.
Oh, I'm doing good. Enjoying this nice day in Denver right now. Just I got the house to myself for a little bit, so just kind of relaxing, enjoying the peace and quiet.
Yeah, you probably don't get a lot of that, at least in the season. Now you do. You got a couple months of it. But the big talking point right now is the schedule release. Shelby, we, above anything, are curious. How excited are you to line up against the Cincinnati Bengals week 1, running back what happened 2 years ago? I know you had a very nice TFL on a first down in that game. How excited are you to run that game back to kick the season off?
Man, it's always nice when you can start a game, start the season against a division opponent. Because, last year we didn't play anybody in our division for like 6-7 weeks into the season. So it's nice that we start week 1 against the Bengals, go week 2, go to Baltimore. So it's kind of a great test right away of where your team is and where you need to be and where you need to go. So I'm excited. I think, they're a great matchup. Anytime you can play any of the good quarterbacks, the really great quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, the Lamar Jacksons, you got to rise to the occasion. So I'm excited. I think, and also it's great because, every player will kind of feel different about it, but I love having home games for the first week. It's just a great way to set the tone and a great way to really, get the season started the right way.
I got a quick question for you. Who, out of the 3 teams in the division, you're starting out with 2 of them. Who gets you most riled up, the Steelers, Bengals, or the Ravens?
I would always say I feel like the Steelers because it's a quick drive. We don't drive to Cincy. We don't drive to Baltimore. We take a bus and we go to Pittsburgh. You know what I mean? It feels like a hard hat lunch pail type of day when you're about to drive down to Pittsburgh and gotta whoop that ass.
Yes.
So
hell
you
yeah.
So you know what I mean. So it's always a cool playing anybody in the division. But I just feel like with Pittsburgh being so close, you can't wait to go down there and beat up on them.
Hell yeah, absolutely. I got to ask now, does coming back from London in week 5, then doing that at Pittsburgh at week 6 change anything? Is that in the back of your guys' mind at all? Because it's a very quick turnaround.
No, so I'll tell you this. So my rookie year, I played in London, and we played like week 4, and we had a week 5 bye week. And that was all the way back in 2014. And then 3 years ago, I went to Germany and played when I was with the Seahawks. We played Tampa Bay. We had the bye week after that. That was like mid-season though. So I think it'd be very interesting to have this international game and then not have a bye week after. I think it'll be a big test for a mental test for us and also a physical test to see how well we're taking care of our bodies and what we need to do if we're doing what we need to do to really get right for this game because it's going to be a different type of turnaround. Having such a long flight, getting back to Cleveland, and then coming right back and then going into a division game. And so I think you know if it all works out the way it's supposed to work out, everybody's going to have all the energy in the world and go out there and ball. Obviously, you're worried about the jet lag part of it. Like that's always a tough thing when it comes to international games. These international games definitely don't do players any favors, but it's always a cool experience though, especially for me being not having much money growing up, and so pretty much all my times going to Europe have been through football. So they're always cool experiences, and I think there's just a better way to do it. But I think it'd be a great opportunity to go out there, play the Vikings in London, and then come home and come back, and then go to Pittsburgh and have a great division game there. I think that's how you kind of get the mindset back to where it needs to go is by having a game like that right after an international game because there is, when you play these division games, it's take no prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a mindset. So that's a perfect opportunity right after an international game.
What would you say is the biggest challenge in terms of when you're going over to London? Obviously, you said the jet lag, but jet lag aside, what's the biggest thing that you have to adjust to or mentally prepare
I would just
yourself
say
for?
not having any facilities to really recover with. They don't have. In Cleveland we have a cryotherapy room.
Mm-hmm.
We have hyperbaric chambers. We have red light therapy. We have float beds. We have all these different type of machines that help with recovery, and now you don't get that overseas. You're kind of up. You have whatever the hotel you're staying at has, and so that for a lot of players though, that's a big part of their. I would say a big part of their routine is recovery throughout the week. And so the biggest challenge will be to how you're going to sustain that recovery while you're overseas.
I've been in. I did a tour with the facility, and I got to lay on that float bed. Oh my god, that float bed is a cheat code.
Man, it's the perfect thing to go take a nap in,
Man,
especially since now this year we're not going to the Greenbrier, so
Mm-hmm.
you actually be able to use it during camp. Go take a quick nap between practice and meetings, and just a place to go clear your mind and relax. And whenever you have a little spot during the day,
and it's warm too.
yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. That Minnesota game that we were just talking about is, as I'm sure you know, the only standalone primetime quote unquote game. There are no night primetime games on the schedule this year, Shelby. Do you prefer no primetime games? Is it easier getting adjusted to a schedule where you're playing at the same time pretty much every week?
Yeah, technically, it's easier for us, but it's bullshit. You know what I mean? Like I'll say it like this. They can count us out all they want to. It's up to us to go into the season and start whooping people's asses and making the league, take note. So I get it. Last year wasn't the season that we expected, and now this year they're going to say we didn't get prime time because of all of the quarterback controversy. Who cares? Screw them.
So
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
I'm
we're
with
gonna
you.
go out there and whoop that ass anyway.
is the locker room taking disrespect to no primetime games?
It just came out yesterday, but I take it as a little bit of disrespect. It means that you don't think we're going to be much. You don't think that we are going to be successful. You don't think we are going to be a team that needs to be on prime time. So that's fine, but it's up to us to go out there and just show them week in and week out that they made that mistake, and then they're going to end up having to flex
That's
us
it.
at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. That is a big thing now. It's no primetime right now unless you get flexed. And I think the way that you're talking and the way that we all believe, it'll happen down the line, especially when you look at the schedule. Shelby, we are curious now in the offseason, right? It's not all football. Like you said, you're not even in Cleveland right now. What does the offseason look like for you? What does an average day in the offseason of Shelby Harris look like when you don't have to be in Cleveland reporting to anything?
So an average day for me. I wake up every morning at like 7. I take my youngest daughter, my 6-year-old, to school every morning. And then I go straight to work out right after. And then I work out for about 2 hours. Then I go to physical therapy, work on this little stuff that we can always make better. And then I go do a little cardio after. at a place called Hot. You guys heard of Hot Works before?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll go do like some biking stuff at Hot Works, and then honestly, at that point, I do other random little stuff. Like I do radio. I have a radio show I work with
Awesome.
out here every Tuesday and
Yep.
Wednesday. With
You got a podcast too, right?
iHeartRadio. Yeah, so we have a podcast, and so I'm part owner of a production company called Gorilla Sports, and that's what the podcast is through. We're the Harrises, and so I'm working a lot, I guess, in media while I'm off after training and stuff. So that's really where a lot of my focus is. Because for me, after I'm done playing, I would like to go on the radio,
Yeah.
Podcasting stuff like that. So I'm just getting a head start on it right now. Because you got to think I'm going to year 12. It's only so many years that you're going to be able to play or want to play. So you got to start looking at, things and dreams after football. And, that's just, what I'm trying to set myself up for now because, I just don't want to, you always hear about players falling into these depressions and really struggling when football is done, which is understandable though, because you got to think, well, shit, I've been playing football. I'm going to year 12 in NFL, played 4 years of college, and then I've almost played 25 years of football. At some point, they make it seem like football's your only worth. Like you're only good at football in life. And so I always try to help people, we're bigger than football players. We can do so much more than just play football. And so for me, I'm just trying to set myself up so I'm not struggling mentally and I have kind of a direction after I'm done playing.
Yeah, I love that. And that is a great, great point because a lot of people are not necessarily pigeonholed, but they are brought up in that world where they've been playing something all their life, whatever sport it may be, could be doing something, a hobby all their life, and all of a sudden it can't be their life anymore. And like you said, your identity can't be rooted in that. Do you think that media is that, not next step for you, but do you think that is where you can prove that this is bigger than football, or you are more than football? Do you think that's the most logical path?
Well, I like to talk, as you can tell.
Yeah.
I give long-winded answers. Long-winded answers. No, but I did the NFL Broadcasting Media Boot Camp last year.
Oh, nice.
And I've had podcasts the last, I'd say, 4 or 5 years, and just getting in the radio and doing stuff like that. It is, I think, my next direction. I just don't. I would say you can't put all your eggs in one basket, but I'm pretty much all in on doing some type of media or something after, or even maybe working with the NFLPA. Because for me, after I retire, I want to get into something where I could still be busy, still work, and but then also just be able to spend time with my family. You don't retire from a job you've been doing for so long to end up working more hours and then spending less time with your family.
Yeah.
And so that's what's important. Is just I've missed so many moments just from football that I want to make an effort to be around more. And so that's my goals, and that's my dreams when I'm done.
Is there a chance that you could find yourself in the Improv or something? Because I know there's some people on the team who think you one of the funniest people on there. So is there a chance we're gonna see you down here at the Improv?
Man, my jokes are more I make fun of you. You need that type of shit talk in the locker room. I'll sit there, I'll just crack jokes. But I'm not like a comedian. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You that my homeboy, you gonna
funny.
get this word comedian.
100%. No, it's funny though because it's bled into my kids. All my kids talk shit. It just makes fun of people. And so I love it though because it makes it that people aren't going to mess with you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, because you're going to come back with that shit quick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I love, obviously I love joking around. I love keeping it light. And I think, that's a big part of, what I bring as my veteran presence I bring is, obviously when it's time to work, we're going to work. But I want to keep it light because I want people to still remember it's a game and we're supposed to be having fun. You know what I mean? I get it. It's a performance-based business, but it's still a game. We're supposed to have fun, and let's make sure we keep doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you talk shit like that on the field too? Is that an on-field thing or just a locker room thing?
See, I just be talking shit. I'll be calling people ugly.
Love that. I love that.
I'll be like, damn, this is the ugliest O-line I ever seen in my life. Just stuff like that. Just keep it light, man. At the end of the day, we playing a kid's game for a king's ransom. You know what I mean? Like this is supposed to be fun. This is I've been living my dream for the last 12 years, like 11, 12 years. You know what I mean? I have no reason to go out on the field and be mad, be angry. Like I always tell people, the same way I am off the field is the same way I am on the field. I just know how to play football.
That's a great way to put it.
Browns, can we get Shelby Harris on the hot mic?
Yeah.
We need some hot mic
Yes,
clips
please.
so we can hear these roast
Please.
sessions.
That's great stuff. More with Shelby Harris when we come back to Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. We do want to talk a little bit more back in the football world now. Game day superstitions. We've had some very interesting answers, especially as it relates to the music. We'll talk about music. We'll talk about pregame stuff, but I'm very curious. Pregame meal. Some people don't like to eat. Some people like to eat a lot. Which boat are you in?
See, this is where I'm actually, this is like the one thing I guess is consistent on my game day.
I love it.
Because I have no superstitions. I'd be out there chill. I'd be in the locker room just chilling. It's like, oh, it's time to go play. Let's go get ready. I don't go in the field. I don't do any of that. Like I've always been a person. I'm gonna save it for game. I'm gonna save it for game day. I'm gonna save it for game time. But the one thing though is in the morning, they usually have like an omelet bar or something like that. I like pasta. I do. If like good thing, we have 1:00 games in Cleveland, and so I'll have a pasta. I want to do pasta in the morning because I feel like eggs are just. I don't know. I'm not the biggest breakfast person or breakfast food type person. I really have to be in the mood, and so that's why I'll have them make me like a bowl of pasta before a couple hours before the game, and I'll be good until the end of the game. Well, you always get a little hungry at the end of the game, but I'm usually good until about the end of the third.
Loaded up on them carbs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any specific type of pasta or type of sauce, or is it just whatever they provide?
So penne pasta, and it's with Alfredo pesto mix.
Ooh, that sounds.
And
really
then
good.
I can tell you everything I put on it. I put onions, green peppers. We'll throw some mushrooms in there, some olives maybe. I'm trying to think what they have. And then Italian sausage. I'm not a big chicken and pasta guy. Never have been. I think it's a little weird, but
I agree.
So I'll do like sausage or something in it. But then it's smooth. Maybe a light red pepper flake just because it's game day.
What's your best pasta spot here in Cleveland?
So my wife loves Luca West.
Never heard
Like
of
my
it.
wife is always like, it's in Westlake.
Okay.
It's in Westlake, but there's one downtown on the water too.
Ooh.
It's a Luca, but there's one downtown on
is
the
it,
water.
Aqua de Luca?
Yeah. Now
Yeah.
it's Aqua de Luca downtown, but
Yep.
it's Luca West in Westlake.
Oh, okay.
I'll say that, and then what's the name of that place? It was this one place that me and my wife. Carne. Tutu Carne.
Ooh, I've never heard of that.
I feel like I've heard of that place.
Tutu Carne has some really good pasta too, and that's the place I remember I took the D-line there for a D-line dinner once.
Yeah.
And so like Tutu Carne is a good pasta. Honestly, during the season I don't eat that much pasta, except it's really game day because it's so much carbs. I'm more like, so for us, like we're doing D-line dinners. We're here to like the Marble Room. We've gone to they've gone to Reds before. You know what I mean? So they hit all the steakhouses and stuff, and I like, actually my favorite post game food, and it was crazy because the car ran through it, was Jaja.
Oh, I didn't know.
dang.
Car. I did not know a car ran through it.
Dude, so it was closed. It was closed for like 4 or 5 months. I think
Wow.
I think it's open again. But literally, we went there one day after a game. I can't remember. We went there one day after a game, and then that weekend, like that next couple of days, somebody ran a car through it.
That's
Wow.
crazy. They needed that insurance money, huh?
I guess so. Wow.
Oh yeah, you already know.
So you mentioned the D-line room. Where you gonna have Mason Graham take the whole D-line room out to?
I was thinking maybe we go to Portugal. You know what I mean? That fifth overall money different. We gonna make sure we get a good trip out of that.
Oh, he paying y'all running that bill up 100%.
That's awesome.
Oh man, it's not running up. Hey, but here's the difference though. And we always, if you're a good rookie, you don't ever have to deal with that. It's the shitty rookies, the ones that Because here's the biggest thing though, is it's more of like, it's a rite of passage type thing. Just how am I supposed to trust you on the field if you can't even do something as simple as carry my helmet in? Or it's just more of like, how am I supposed to go to war with you? Like this is a brotherhood. We've all been through this fraternity. We've all been through this type of thing, and it's just a way that we all can trust each other.
So it's the people who play along with the carry, because you see some clips of some people that are like, I mean, I'm not carrying his helmet. Them the ones that get it the worst.
100%. 100%, no
That's a
question.
little insight there. I didn't know that.
That makes sense the more you think about it, though, for sure. I love that. I know there's a viral video of Garrett Wilson talking about the rookie dinner. It's like they're gonna run you $75,000. Like I'm not paying $75,000. Maybe that plays into it too. Hopefully Mason has not said anything like that. But have you gotten?
Also, we don't have any dicks in the D-line room that would actually try to run it up. Because at the end of the day, it is hard-earned money. You know what I mean? And so like we're not pocket watching or doing anything like that. It's all for fun. It's all fun, and it's all just a respect and you know what I mean? Because what it is like what they get out of it is they get the insight from all the vets in the room. It's invaluable, the stuff that the other players can pass on to the young guys. And so it's just like a respect thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we finish, Shelby, we do want to talk to you about the parallels between 2023 and now, because the big elephant in the room when you look at the Browns roster now in 2023 is the fact that Joe Flacco is back. Mm-hmm. How different is the locker room, or is the locker room even different now with Joe Flacco back? Can you feel something different in there? Do you get along with Joe Flacco really well? How has that changed over time with him? Has there been more comfort? How has that changed over time?
Oh, well, Joe's my guy. Most people don't know this, but you got to remember, I played with him in Denver.
Yep. You're right.
So I've known Joe even before he got here. So Joe's going to be cool. Joe's going to be chilling. You know what I mean? Like, so Joe's always been good people. He's always a good person to have around, a good guy to have in the locker room. And so, everything, here's the thing, you won't really know until we get to work. And you know what I mean? And then until you start seeing people losing reps, winning reps, and you really see the whole dynamic of this team, that you really won't know. And so, you got to think, and I hate to say it like that, it's a crappy part of the league, but half the guys in the locker room right now won't be there.
Yeah,
you got to think. You got to cut half. You get to 90. You got to get down to 53. So you're cutting almost damn near half the people. Yeah. So it's just it's tough.
So as a player in the locker room right now, in the quarterback situation that you have right now, and there's obviously going to be preferences this way, how do you decipher that as a player? Like, we don't know who we're necessarily going into battle with as our week one starting quarterback. Like, how do you manage the emotions when you've had Joe Flacco before and you've seen what he can do? You have these two young guys and rookies and Dylan Gabriel who went higher, and then obviously Shador, you know what that brings. And then Kenny Pickett, a guy who was just in the Super Bowl last year, who's been through and in the familiar territory with the AFC North. Like, how do you manage that as a player when you have to gravitate to someone to lead you into battle?
Man, honestly, for us on defense, our thought is if they don't score, we win.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
But that's kind of what it. I've been a part of QB's battles and seen all this stuff all my years in Denver. All this, every year, it was always something different. And you can't worry about that. You got to let them work on themselves. You got to let them go and do what they need to do to get themselves right. But what I can focus on is, as a defender, knowing that hey, if they don't score, they can't win. And so that's got to be the mindset regardless. And that's the mindset of any great defense. So you got to hold them to zero. Why not? Nobody on that other side is better than us. And so our philosophy is going to have to be, shut them down. But also, I think people are severely underestimating our offense. And so, let the season go on and we'll shut the haters up. But, for us on defense, though, it's a matter of, hey, make them earn every inch.
What do you think the big difference was in terms of last year and the 2023? I mean, you talk about number one in basically every defensive category, and then you come out with this expectation. What was the main difference from 2023 to last year?
I would just say, honestly, in the total, I would say a little bit of toughness. We get punched in the mouth, wouldn't punch back. And it was just I would say it was a little bit of a hangover from the year before too. In the NFL, you got to bring it every game, every year. there is no like you don't get any extra coupons or anything like that from having a good team the year before. You got to go out there and prove that shit every year. And so we didn't do a good enough job of erasing the year before and coming out there and making a name for ourselves in 2024. So it's just, it's unfortunate because we did have all that talent. And so this year, I think it was a wake-up call. I think you're going to see a way better product.
Absolutely. And we had Alex Wright on about a week and a half ago, and he was saying almost the same thing, but as it related to last year. Now you guys are all in a headspace where you understood how important it was to kind of erase the year before, and now in 2025, the year you're erasing was a year that wasn't great. So you can walk into this season with a fresh perspective, and we could not be more excited for the Browns defense, this Browns team holistically. Shelby, we appreciate you hopping on big time. Before we go, we want to give you the chance to plug your socials as well as your sports media and any other podcasts that you have. So feel free to give a couple shout outs right now.
Oh, well, shit, I barely even know my socials. Let me think.
Shelby 93.
I know. Hey, Instagram, Shelby Harris 96, because they won't let me change it to 93. They hating on me. Twitter, Shelby Harris 93. But hey, follow your boy. Guerrilla Sports, look us up. Hey, especially look us up today. Well, look us up, we do post games of Nuggets, all that stuff. And so just look us up. I appreciate you guys for all your time and everything. Appreciate you guys having me on. Much love.
Shelby, before you go, one question we want to ask. What do you think of the Nuggets series right now? I want you to predict the outcome.
I think the Nuggets will win.
Love it.
Because I think the Nuggets will win today at home because they're back in Denver. I'm telling you, the altitude's no joke.
Yeah.
And so especially when you're already like tired, game 6, you've been in a series for a while, you're a little tired. So I give the Nuggets this one. I feel like when the Nuggets win this one, it's going to be over for OKC next game. So
Game 7.
I'm choosing the Nuggets.
Love it. I love it. Well, Shelby, we appreciate you hopping on. We will be right back on Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. Welcome back into Honor the Land. I am Max Loeb. He is Chef Zay. This is Big Play Sports Network, and this is Around the Land, the segment where we take questions from you all on our socials, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Honor the Land, just like you see it on here. We got 3 really good questions today. We have to start with the schedule release question, the elephant in the room. We talked to it about Shelby as well. Pat, take it away.
Yeah, guys, this one comes from Nolan Dodd, and it's the elephant in the room, like you said. 0 primetime games. How are we feeling?
I mean, I was a little bit happier about it when it came out. Obviously, primetime games are very cool, but for like logistics, like what we do, it's easier if it's at 1 o'clock and not 8 o'clock.
Right.
But then hearing Shelby talk about it, I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good point. You got to feel pretty disrespected if you're the Browns and then also Titans and Saints, but the Browns don't have primetime games. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
I love hearing what Shelby Harris had to say because it makes me it's good to know that the players feel that way. It's like, oh, y'all don't think we're going to do this? It's good. We got another chip on our shoulder that we can use. But me personally, I've been on this. I think you could probably type in X and find it multiple times. I'm a 1 o'clock guy.
Yeah.
I like the routine. I have a certain set routine, like where I wake up in the morning, we do our, you just have that hype. And well, now obviously it's a little bit different since we go to the Muni lot, but like, it's just that, I don't know, for all my life, 1 o'clock games have been a thing for the Browns. So selfishly, I don't really care. I enjoy my 1 o'clocks and then having that 4 o'clock nap and then watching prime time at 8 o'clock. So, I mean, am I disrespecting a little bit? Sure, but when you're 3-14, what do you expect?
What do you expect? That's the best way to put it. You can't expect to even be flexed to more than 1 at that point. I will say, most years, pretty much every team has a Thursday night game, and the Browns don't. Yeah. I am a huge proponent of the benefits of a mini bye. But at the same time, the other end of that is you play another game on a short week. It's a give and take, right? You can get healthier resting an extra 3 days, but you're also running the risk of getting injured if you play earlier on in the season. Again, give and take. I love Thursday Night Football. That is probably my favorite game of the week, but I am so happy most of the games are at 1 o'clock. And, there's no, quote, primetime games, but there's a standalone game in London. So it's not like the Browns are not broadcasted in some sense, but it's a very, very, very minimal sense.
Browns fans will be lit by 7 o'clock that day for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But do you think there's a possibility, like playing hypotheticals, of course, let's just say all the chips fall the way that they should, and week 14 sitting here, Cam Ward is a starter for Tennessee. Browns are looking to see if they should move into Shedeur, and the Shedeur automatic, and he gets to start somehow. Do they flex that game to a 4 p.m. window? Because I feel like that would be a game that will everyone's going to be watching the Shedeur versus Cam Ward.
What's the Browns' record?
I don't think it matters.
I think it does.
I think we've seen, you can just go to the social media clips whenever Shedeur is involved. It is a night and day difference in how many people are looking at those clips and looking at those videos. Not to mention the fact that you think about when they were in Colorado and all of the concerts they were having, people that were flying in to see that. Let's just say it's Shedeur Sanders' first game. The Browns could be 0-13. I don't think it matters. You're probably going to have record numbers on it.
Well, here's what they'd have to flex it over. Bengals-Bills, so that's not happening.
No.
Chiefs-Texans, that's not happening. That's Sunday night.
It could happen. No, Sunday night? No, they won't do that.
The only other, like, America's Game of the Week, Bengals-Bills is America's Game of the Week, but the only other 425 one is Rams-Cardinals. That is an interesting one, but I don't know if they'd flex it out of the Los Angeles market. So my guess is no. I do think record plays a part, though. I really do think it plays a part.
Yes and no. If it's not Shedeur, if it's Shedeur's first game, I don't think it matters.
Interesting.
But if it's not, you could have a point there. But this is, I mean, they're just gonna bring up all the clips from offseason of them going back and forth, and this is what we've been waiting for. Like, it's gonna have that build up to it. I think, especially if the Browns are let's just say 3-10 or 3-10 or 4-9. Like, everyone's gonna want to see the Cam Ward Shedeur matchup. I feel like, I don't care what the record is.
Interesting. Okay,
because it could be that good segue into it's like, Shedeur beat the number 1 overall pick. Should he have fell to the 5th round? Like, there's so many storylines you can create from
If it's his first start, I think it also improves the chances. But is it his first start? Who knows? It's a lot of hypotheticals. We'll talk schedule for our third question as well. But we do have a second question in the middle, Pat, talking about some retired Browns legends.
Take it away. So who would you like to see? Retired Cleveland Brown. Who would you most like to see on this Cleveland Browns team?
I mean, my answer, I know my answer.
Well, he said no Hall of Famers, right?
Yep.
So that takes the Joe Thomas one out of it.
Yep. You want me to say, I did not even have to think about this.
I feel like I know where you're going.
Josh Gordon.
I knew you were going to say that.
I'm not.
I knew you were going to say that.
You need receiver help, and Josh Gordon. If you're getting Josh Gordon in his prime, like, there's just, maybe if he sustained that prime for as long as he played, he would have been a Hall of Famer. Who knows? But if you're adding Josh Gordon to an offense now with Jerry Jeudy, David Njoku, Harold Fannin Jr., even Cedric Tillman, regardless of who's throwing him the football, I like Josh Gordon a lot in this offense.
Yeah, I feel like that's the easy one. You know what? I'm gonna play the other side just because you went offense. I'm gonna go someone who actually said, "Oh, that's your twin." Give me TJ the hard hitter Ward.
Ooh, I like that.
Ward
Yeah,
at safety.
I thought about TJ Ward too.
Or if you didn't want to go that route, now I know this one may sting a little bit because he trashed us, but when he was here, you want to talk about a ball hawk. Tayshaun Gibson.
Ooh, okay.
Him next to the hitter that is Grant Delpit would be crazy. That secondary would be we talk about, what was it, Lockdown on the Lake when it was TJ Ward, Gibson, Hayden, and those boys. Like, you get a ball hog back there with Grant Delpit who likes to play in the box. It takes that pressure off him to have to be the coverage guy. You obviously know what you got at your corners with this defensive line. So I'll take that. Obviously, Josh Gordon's the easy answer, so I'll go on the defense side of the ball and say TJ Ward.
Did you think Jarvis Landry at all, if he is officially retired? I don't know if he is officially, because I know he tried out.
I think he just retired, guys. That was actually going to be what my answer was, honestly, because you need that culture.
Yeah,
I'm a little surprised you guys didn't have that name a little bit earlier on.
Interesting.
You know why? I should have said that because we do miss the culture, but I think maybe if you would have asked me that before we got the new in. Something feels like there. I don't think I've ever convincingly said that. Oh, it feels like a culture change is happening with the Browns.
Yeah.
Until we saw Jarvis and Baker, like that was inevitable. Something feels different with the energy around the players this year. I don't know if it's the hype. I don't know if it's the hope coming off of a 3-14 season and we just don't want to go back to that. But it feels as if they are trying to establish a new type of culture. Now, obviously, we don't know what it is.
I got you.
So I can't put it into words, but something feels different.
It feels different. It's so hard to change culture with a coach that's already been there. Like you want to overhaul culture, but at the end of the day, culture's got to lead to wins. Going back to the schedule, Pat, finish us up here.
Yeah, guys, what is your legit record predictions for this season, and when do you see Shedeur Sanders starting?
Whoo, man, that's a loaded question. I mean, I look at the schedule, and optimistically, I see 7 wins. I think you can beat Cincy at home week 1. I think you can beat Miami at home week 7. Honestly, I think off a bye, that's a logical spot for a quarterback change. It depends on who's playing and what the record is, obviously. But I could see them beating the Jets off of 2 weeks of preparation. I could see them beating Vegas. I think Vegas is going to be better than people think. But I could see them beating Vegas week 14 at home against Tennessee. I think they beat the Steelers at home. I think they can split with Pittsburgh. And I think they win a probably meaningless game in week 18 against Cincy. It's 7 if I'm not mistaken. But where we see Shedeur, the bye week is staring us in the face. Whether it's Shedeur or Dylan Gabriel, you don't know. But the bye week is staring us in the face for a quarterback change.
I see. I mentioned this to you off the air, and I'm glad I said it out loud because, like, as I'm sitting here and I'm just thinking, I'm like, bro, I want to just stick with my Joe Flacco. Like, I think I'm just hopeful that we can channel that lightning in a bottle effect that they like to call it. I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where it's like, okay, this is our legit chance to run it back with the guy who we've seen can lead, who we've seen got the offense going, who we've seen if he turns the ball over, defense can feel confident going back out there, getting a quick stop and giving it back to him to make up for it. So like, while this first 8 weeks is it's a brutal first 8 start. That's why I really hope we see Joe Flacco, because it's like, I think it's the true test to see where this team stands and what they're capable of. Because you still look at the offensive side of the ball, yeah, there's some familiar faces, but guys who played big roles are still here as well. Jerome Ford caught a lot of pass, or he caught a touchdown pass and caught some stuff from Joe Flacco. Obviously, David Njoku was one of the top tight ends in the league. Cedric Tillman's familiar with him. David Bell got to catch some passes from him, 2 touchdowns actually from him. So I feel like he gives you the best opportunity to go out there and win. When we see Shedeur, I really think it all depends on the first 8 weeks. Like, obviously, we talked about this with the Deshaun thing, but even coming out of that, you were still looking at who's going to be the quarterback after the bye week. So maybe the bye week isn't it. So I don't really know when we see Shedeur. I'm not going to confidently sit here and say when we are, because I'm hopeful that we're going into the bye week with a 4. I'd be happy with 4-4. You're still in the hunt. You still can compete, and you still have a chance to, make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think 4-4, especially when you look at some of the defenses that they play, like they play a lot of really good offenses. Defenses, there's some in there where they're like, okay, you can score 30 points on these guys. But I think if you're sitting at 4-4 there, you probably don't make quarterback change. But regardless, the quarterback change, if it comes, probably when it comes, I think we're at some point all on the same page. It will. It's going to depend on preseason, training camp, and honestly, OTAs, which will be in a couple weeks. We'll give you a quick Cleveland look ahead in a couple minutes here on Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. Welcome back into Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network. I am Max Loeb. He is Chef Zay. We're going to wrap things up for you guys. We'll talk more Browns at the end, but there are some other Cleveland sports that we do have to talk about. The Cleveland Guardians are now leaving home for, I believe, a week and a half to 2 weeks. They won't be back here until they face the Los Angeles Dodgers, I believe May 26th, but Shohei Ohtani in town. But the big elephant, the Cavs. The Cavs lose to the Indiana Pacers in 5 games. What a wild roller coaster of a series between losing game 2, coming out everybody healthy, or at least for the most part, in game 3, and blowing them out of the water. And then the exact opposite happens to you in game 4. You think you got a chance in game 5. You don't. The eyes are looking ahead to the offseason, the future. Do you have any big concrete thoughts like the Cavs need to move on from this player or need to make a change here? You do.
I do, 100%.
Let's hear it.
You talk about a roller coaster. It's not even a roller coaster, because usually on a roller coaster ride, it's like up, down, around and loop. This was literally the top thrill dragster. A straight shot, and your stomach is just in your body the entire time. Yep. There's no other loop. It was straight up and straight down. But you talk about a move that needs to happen. I made a couple videos on it where I talked about, don't don't expect this core or this team to look the same. Like, I think Jared Allen probably gone. Darius Garland, you could get a serious package for Garland and Allen if it's centered around those two. Guys like Max Strus, I think Isaac Okoro's time is probably up here in Cleveland. I was a big Isaac Okoro fan just because he reminded me of a lesser version of Marcus Smart and what he brought to a team. But when you talk about this year, he's not as consistent with the three ball as you need him to be. Sometimes the defensive liability in terms of just height isn't matching up to what he could give you. And I just think that you've tried it. This is year 3 of this project with this core. And the first year there was the lights were too bright excuse. The next year was injuries excuse. This year, what are we looking at here? You know what I mean? Like, I'm watching other players with injuries go out there and still have an impact, and everyone wants to say, well, it's obvious that Garland had his toe and you could see it hindered him. I don't want to hear it right now. Like, you guys won 64 games and you came out and looked like a completely different team. Something has to change, and I think you have to do right by Donovan Mitchell to get him some type of help, some type of consistent help, because when Darius Garland's on, they're pretty much unbeatable.
Yeah, they were pretty much unbeatable all year.
Yeah.
Can I be honest with you? I think the core 4 is back next year. I think nothing changes for a couple of reasons. Number one, the second apron makes it really hard for them to make big moves, big splashes. Mm-hmm. But then when you look at the trajectory of the East, obviously you ran into a buzzsaw in Indiana who's playing really good basketball. That's the thing. Like, they're playing really good basketball right now. They were as hot as the Cavs entering the playoffs. That's the reality of it. But you ran into a really good team in Indiana. Celtics are going to be without Tatum next year. Giannis could go to the Western Conference.
Tatum's obviously, you got all next year, you think?
Oh, yeah. He just tore his Achilles. Yeah, 100%.
Wow, you don't think he'll make a comeback? We've been seeing those Achilles injuries only turn out to be like less than a year now.
That's with guys like Aaron Rodgers. Really, Aaron Rodgers is the big one, but Kirk Cousins is a little quicker of a turnaround.
Dobbins had it too, didn't he?
Yeah, that was over a year, though.
Okay.
But regardless, what I'm trying to say is Tatum's 27, going to be 28. You don't want to rush that back and risk long term. He's got many years of good basketball if he makes the full recovery. You have to look at the East that's actively getting worse. Like, it's actively getting worse before our eyes, and think we have to make a push. Now, that could lean into them potentially trading for somebody, but like I said, the second apron makes it really, really hard to do that. It restricts your trade. It restricts how much you can pay certain people. It's hard to do. And the reality is, I just don't know if the grass is greener. Like, Kenny Atkinson, year 1 was great, and he gets the most out of these guys. Who's to say he can't get more out of them year 2? He obviously saw some untapped potential, and there were questions about his coaching the play. Whatever, regardless. You lose a series that you shouldn't lose. That's the bottom line. Does that happen again next year with another full year of DeAndre Hunter, right? Mm-hmm. Who knows who's back in terms of the role player department, but another year of development with Ty Jerome, like guys like that. I find it so hard to believe that it looks dramatically different. Players could go, but to think that like a Giannis could come in, or I saw a trade for Jalen, like something like that, no way.
It would be different, I feel like, if Darius Garland wasn't such a liability on the defensive side of the ball. I think his height is just when they were running that zone in the first couple games, or when they won that game, and it worked. But then the very next game, the Pacers came out and made adjustments, and they cracked that code so quick. And it was almost as if they had no answer for it, because the plan was pick on Garland. Whoever gets the switch on to Garland, you're feeding him automatically every single time. And I just feel like if he's not going to give you something on the offensive side of the ball on a consistent basis, at the very least you have to be defensive serviceable. And he is too much of a liability to only give me 13 points and 3 rebounds. Like, if you were giving me 3-4 steals and you weren't creating 5 turnovers, you shouldn't have more turnovers than assists as a point guard. Yeah. You shouldn't go into the half with 1-2 shot attempts when you're making second best player money on the team. So, like, it's just too inconsistent. Now, like you said, is the grass greener on the other side? I don't necessarily know if it's greener, but I think you can find some grass that will equal the grass that you have, just strictly off of upgrading your point guard position. Okay. Now, it's obviously a little bit easier said than done. Point guards aren't growing on trees, but I just don't know how you can run it back confidently next year and be like, yeah, we're going to do it again. Like, how much better are you going to be than 64-19? Like, you know what I mean? Or whatever that record was. You're not going to be much better. No. So the ceiling, you pretty much almost seen what the ceiling is with this core.
Absolutely. And I think it's really difficult to believe in Darius Garland on the defensive side of the ball. Patrick Beverley, I'm not sure if you saw the clip, put it pretty well. I don't know if Darius Garland was not taking defense seriously, but Patrick Beverley basically said, like, defense is an issue. As soon as that becomes an issue, the Cavs are done, and that's what happened. But as we look ahead to the summer, we got to talk some Brown stuff, too. Nick Chubb is still out there. There are still free agents out there for the Browns, too, that are more appealing than a guy who would probably be the third-string running back on the Browns right now. Keenan Allen's still out there. Justin Simmons is still out there. Amari Cooper's still out there. Is there anybody you got your eye on? I know you've been talking about Amari Cooper a little bit.
I don't know why I'm getting obsessed with the Amari Cooper thing, just because I just think I'm living in the nostalgia of 2023.
There's nothing wrong with that.
You know, but like it is you know me. I say it every episode, it seems like, the Andrew Berry breadcrumb trail. It's like, maybe they have confidence in their receiver group. Like, maybe they're just trying to put their foot down and say, you know what, let's see what they have. And it almost gives them the best opportunity. I don't think the Browns are looking to tank this year, but I don't think they're overly looking to go out of their way to just get what is Keenan Allen or Amari Cooper going to give you? Maybe one more win. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't know if there's a guy out there that's going to come in and be like, yeah, he's going to make a drastic impact on our team. I think you want to see what Kevin Stefanski can do. And if he's going back to his offense, I mean, you're not going to have enough space for the receivers to go out there and see what you got with the young guys now anyway, if you bring in another vet. So mix that with the two running backs. I just don't see any big splash happening. We've seen a lot of undrafted free agent guys come back, and the veteran presence, the safety that we got from Seattle, which is a great signing, by the way. But yeah, I think we're done with splashes.
I think the Browns are done with splashes too. As bad as it sounds, I think that's the reality of it. Maybe they do believe in the receiver room. I think when you look at the Browns' schedule, especially those first 8 weeks, you got to score to keep up with the Bengals. Got to score to keep up with the Ravens. Got to score to keep up with the Packers for sure.
Yep, and the Lions.
Lions, Vikings, Steelers. No, I don't think that's like a 35 to 31 game.
Definitely not. Never.
Miami, I think you do have to score to keep up with them. New England, maybe not. But like, you got to score to keep up with those teams. Then obviously you have other teams like the Niners on the schedule, the Bills on the schedule. The Bears are going to be pretty solid offensively. You got to score to win. And I think getting another receiver would just give you straight up another pass option, another guy in a one-on-one scenario. If they're going to bracket Jerry Jeudy, do you trust Cedric Tillman? Probably. But if you don't trust
Deontay Johnson?
That's the question, right? That's the big one.
The
Jamari Thrash. He is the key piece, and he can destroy man coverage. We know that for sure. But as we look ahead, I don't think the Browns are making any big splashes. My eyes are on Nick Chubb just to see if he signs. Chicago, I just mentioned, I think he could sign there.
What if Nick Chubb doesn't get signed? Is there a world where we go into this NFL season and it's like Nick Chubb's not on the roster and he's in that Kareem Hunt role where he's waiting for a team to be like, hey, we need you. Our guy just went down.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Kareem Hunt, yeah. And look what Kareem Hunt did. He did really well in Kansas City, and now he re-signed with Kansas City. All it takes is one correct team to believe in you. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate you guys listening. Zay, any final words before we sign off?
Make sure you guys go check out the Big Play Network website. Honor the Land t-shirts are out. They are... Hey, we ain't get it yet, but I know it's crispy, so make sure you guys tap into that. And what's the promo code for it?
I believe it's...
Is it HTL?
I'll find it for you real quick. But yeah, Honor the Land t-shirts are out right now. The code is HTLCLE. HTLCLE.
That'll get you 15% off. Lock in. Matter of fact, we'll have to figure out how we want to do a giveaway because these shirts
they're sweet.
It's just so fire. So that's all I got for y'all, man. Enjoy y'all day.
Enjoy your weekend as well. No Cavs basketball to stress you out. Guards on the road. Maybe you can look at some Browns clips on Twitter to overreact to like we all did. We will see you guys next time on Honor the Land on Big Play Sports Network.